from over. Joining me now from the Trump side of things, Article 3 Project founder Mike Davis. All right, Mike, every time I hear our former president speak, it does crack me up. I mean, it is genius the way that he has formulated this campaign against Ron DeSantis and labeled him disloyal out the gate before he even announced. Do you think that this is working? The polls would indicate that it is, but do you think that the Trump sabotage of DeSantis is going to stick?
Look, I'm a big fan of Governor DeSantis. I think he's America's best governor. I just don't think it was his time in 2024 to run. And so I think Governor DeSantis would serve himself well by figuring out a way to gracefully get out of this race, strongly get behind President Trump, build goodwill among Trump supporters, and set himself up for a run in 2028.
So I've heard this argument a lot, Mike, and I understand it. But for me, it's like if we lose in 2024, I don't see us winning in 2028 or ever again. And when I say we, I mean conservatives and Republicans. I think that if Biden or Gavin Newsom were to win in 2024, I think that the way our voting system is going to be messed with is going to have horrible repercussions for eternity to come. And I don't feel like a Republican will be able to get elected once they give 30 million illegal immigrants voting rights and amnesty. So that's my concern here, is that while I would love to have Trump as my president again, I am very concerned that a general election is not going to go well for him, because whether you believe in what happened in 2020 or not, the fact of the matter is he's not our president now because that election didn't go as planned. And I don't know what he's done from 2020 to 2023 and then 2024 to change the minds of people who voted for Biden in 2020. So you've got to explain to me why you think he can get there.
I do think 2024 is a crucial election, and I agree with you. I think it's the end of our republic if Republicans don't win. And the reason for that is because there is a good chance the next president will replace one or more Supreme Court justices. And if conservatives lose the Supreme Court, it's game over, America. We're going to lose our God-given rights to speak, associate, worship, protect ourselves. There's no chance that a liberal Supreme Court will protect those rights. And that's why this election is so crucial. I do think Trump's going to win. And I said the same thing back in 2016 when my friends and family said I was crazy. But all you have to do is just get out to real America, get out to the real world. I'm from Iowa. When I go back to Iowa and talk to real people in the real world, they like Trump. But I think that Trump's going to, it's going to be a fight to win this next election. And that's why it is so crucial. If you concede that Trump's going to be the nominee, it's why it's so crucial for Republicans, conservatives, independents, even right-thinking Democrats to start to rally behind President Trump, because this election is so critical for our country.
I just have some concerns, though. I'm from South Dakota, so I get it. Most of my friends and family are staunch Trump supporters, and they are unmovable in their position of supporting Donald Trump. But I'm also very concerned when I look at places like Arizona, Wisconsin, Nevada, Michigan, Georgia, North Carolina. Very concerned that some of those states that are need-to-win states are not going to budge, and they're not going to vote for Trump because, as we saw in the 2022 midterms, a lot of those states that Trump was backing candidates, our candidate, the conservative candidate, lost. Now, I know that can't be completely put on Trump's shoulders. Some of these were just bad candidates like Herschel Walker in Georgia. But I do have some concerns that he hasn't expanded his base. He's still got a base, and it's strong amongst Republicans. But has he expanded it enough in the last several years to overcome that wall that's going to be those need-to-win states?
I think we've been seeing with President Trump, and I've actually been very, very pleasantly surprised about this. He's been putting out a lot of substantive videos from his campaign, and I think that's important. So you clearly know where he's going to stand. And I think at the end of the day, the American people will need to decide, do we want a Democrat or Republican president replacing Justice Thomas? Do we want to be in an endless war in Ukraine? Do we want an open border? And if it becomes a choice between Biden or Newsom versus Trump, I think that Trump's going to win that argument.
You think even amongst people that hate Trump and they think Trump's a crook and they still think he's a Russian agent and now he's been indicted twice, probably a third time on the way, do you think that those people who are sick of the circus and sick of the drama, do you think that even if they want a Republican in the White House, do you think that they will plug their nose and vote for Donald Trump realistically and honestly, and I'm not talking about Republicans, I'm talking about independents and Democrats, that he maybe won in 2016?
I don't know if he'll win Democrats, but I do think that he can get some right-thinking independents, just because they're seeing the state of our country now. Where Trump, for better or for worse, with Trump, he brought us peace and prosperity until Democrats used COVID to destroy our economy. And if you look at the choice between, do we want Joe Biden again or Gavin Newsom with open borders and inflation and war and chaos, or do we want someone who's been tested, who's been in the White House before? We know who he is. We like who he is, warts and all.
So, and I understand that, and I think that he had a fantastic presidency, by the way. I mean, I was an early Trump supporter like you when everybody told me I was crazy. Everybody told me there's no way Trump could win. And I said, this man has been underestimated. And I think that was part of the key to his success in 2016, is that he was so underestimated by the left. They don't underestimate him anymore. And now they're really throwing everything that they can at him. And that is not his fault entirely, and mostly it's not his fault that happens to be the case. But I still have my concerns. And I'm wondering, honestly speaking, if Trump weren't in the picture, do you think that Ron DeSantis would have a better chance against Joe Biden than a Donald Trump?
Well, I don't know. I mean, what is appealing about Trump is people think of him as a strong leader. I think Governor DeSantis is a strong leader as well. And so I just don't know what the dynamics would be in that particular race. I do think that these indictments, these Democrats are bringing these indictments against Trump to try to take him out politically. And it's actually having the opposite effect. You're seeing people who are getting upset, real Americans and real America upset that, a DC special counsel and a DC judge and a DC jury may decide the next election. That doesn't sit well with the American people. And that's why I think we're starting to see a major rallying effect around President Trump, both with the Alvin Bragg indictment, which I think sealed the nomination for Trump. And I think Jack Smith's indictments of Trump are going to put him back into the White House.
Amongst Republicans, I agree with you, but I also think that's strategic, because I think that Democrats want to run against Trump. I think they very badly want to run against Trump. But do you think that the American people are sick of this rematch? That they've got, 80-year-old Joe Biden, 80-something-year-old Donald Trump. Do you think that some Americans are saying, hey, listen, let's scrap both of them. Let's bring in Gavin Newsom, even though he's repulsive, and Ron DeSantis, who's 44, and let's have a new generation from both political parties actually having a real competition here, not about indictments and shenanigans and pay-to-play and investigations, but just policy alone. Do you think that there is a part of the American public on both sides that deserves that kind of a matchup based on policy alone?
I mean, I think the American people deserve whoever they pick to be the nominee. If President Trump is the nominee and President Biden's the nominee, then that's who the American people want. If they pick Governor Newsom, I'll gladly support Governor Newsom. I think the American people get to decide elections, not DC prosecutors and not DC insiders.
And I agree with you on that. And we know that these indictments are all baloney and it's weaponized. And I agree with it wholeheartedly, but it's not me that they have to convince. I'm going to vote for Trump or DeSantis or the Republican. Either way, it's the general public that I'm very concerned about. And I hope that he can get over that hump. And I got to tell you, if he is our nominee, I will support him 120%. I will be there. I will fight the good fight. I just have some concerns. And I'm worried that we're not going to be able to pivot to a general. So that is my biggest concern. But, in speaking of what Donald Trump has been saying about Ron DeSantis, it kind of goes both ways here. They both have gone after each other. I think it's a little heavier on the Trump versus DeSantis side. But do you think the things that Trump is saying about DeSantis, do you think that is going to damage DeSantis in the future? Somebody that we really need leading our party for the future, even if it is 2028?
No, I mean, I think like I said, Governor DeSantis is America's best governor. I think he did an excellent job during COVID when all the other Republican governors were hiding under their beds during COVID. I think so. He has a very bright future. He's only going to be 50 years old in 2028. He can still be the president in 2028, and I think he'd make an excellent president in 2028. I just don't think the Republican primary voters are ready for Ron DeSantis right now.
Well, that's a fair assessment. And like I said, hey, if Trump is our nominee, I will go 100%. I think Ron DeSantis would have an easier road to the White House. But whatever the Republican voters decide is what we'll have. And we will fight the good fight. And we will fight it viciously. Thank you so much for coming on, talking a little Trump with me, and I'll have you back as primary season really kicks off, and we'll see how the polls turn out then.
Thank you for having me.
God bless.